Hey, hey!
Hello.
How's it going, guys? Happy Friday, Family
Happy
Friday.
May Day.
Happy what?
May Day.
Oh, May Day.
You knew that.
Did I know that? I didn't know that.
It's a spring celebration. You dance around the maypole. I'm totally hijacking this.
Wow.
Sorry.
Didn't know this. So thanks. Off to a good start so far, guys. As promised, Family Friday. We're here every Friday at 11 to kind of talk about concepts and issues and things that are coming up in conversations with families we have throughout the week, including our own.
Yep.
And a big one right now that we wanted to share with you guys that I think is important is what does life look like after the pandemic? This is already starting to have a conversation now. In no way are we saying, are we out of this? Is it over?
Right.
Not suggesting that. But I think it's important for all of us to ask that question because you look at some of the toughest stories in history from Viktor Frankl, looking ahead out of the concentration camps of what was he going to do next. There is a power to accepting where you are, but also saying, what's it going to look like after the pandemic? And one thing that we came up with probably about 2 weeks ago is if we came out of this the exact same way we went in, then have we really learned anything?
Right.
And
God forbid we come out worse, right?
Yeah, come out worse. But I think you have to be intentional with that. Very intentional.
Absolutely. You have to bring your intentions.
Now, one of the things that helped us,
Hey, Heather.
One of the things that helped us with setting bigger intentions and what do we want things to look at, a lot of you have done the activity that we do called 75-year-old self. And it's just that question, what would your 75-year-old self say to you right now about the situation at hand? And when you really take time to ponder on that, again, I joke, I hope that my 75-year-old self still has some hair, I'm still surfing, but what would he really say? And taking this seriously, I had this right at the beginning of the pandemic where doing this exercise, he said, look, of course there's going to be business setbacks, but you've gone through them before, you'll come through them again. But look at this golden opportunity. You're young, you're healthy, all your family's here, you have food, you have water, you're next to the beach. Make the most of this time because it's not going to come back. And look at it's some things that are really important are going to float to the top.
Yeah.
And
for me, I definitely, the first couple of weeks, or I guess the first week, you're like, whoa, what just happened? And you're a little bit disoriented. Then as you start to get into your rhythms and figure out actually, heads from tails, I think what came to me was, some of the reflections that we've shared, just not moving around quite as much. You know what I mean? I think that 75-year-old self would say to me, gosh, why do you move so much? Why are you here and there and then popping over there and why,
not rushing around.
Right. And we don't even do that so much probably as other people do sometimes, but even within myself, I know what that rushed feeling feels like. And I think that there's so often it's rushing to something that's not necessary. Or could I consolidate the times in which I'm going out?
Yeah.
Or the times in which I have things to do externally?
So let's share a couple of those. So again, to step back from the situation, I always like to look 30 years out. What would my 75-year-old self say? Something I've taken very seriously. And I haven't been perfect through this pandemic, but I'm really proud of how I've handled it. And my family's even commented on that because 2008 almost crushed me, but I didn't want to let this do that. No matter what happened in business, I wanted to look on the good. So Jamie and I were making a list before of a couple of powerful things we're going to do differently after the pandemic. One of them Jamie just hit on is less running around and less travel. We love adventure. Adventure is one of our core values.
For sure.
But when I'm talking travel, certain, possibly not needed travel for work, extra trip here and there where I've really enjoyed being home, not to take away from all the horrors and sadness that's happening for people, but we've really enjoyed being home. And with that being home, because
you get perspective too. So, like I said, those first couple of weeks are a little bit of uncomfortable, but then once you start to get it, you're like, oh, and you start to notice different things within yourself, within each other. It's
there's
just so interesting.
A healthy
Decompression,
slowdown. Yeah, and you start to look around almost with more visibility. And we said, what are we rushing around about? So we don't always have to run these errands.
For the first time since we've been home. I didn't even know we had hummingbirds in our yard.
Actually, and our friend Philip McKernan said the same thing in Boulder. He hadn't seen them in 5 years of living there. So
birds in general, yeah.
Birds in general, especially hummingbirds. But I think less rushing around. We're seeing more. We're enjoying our home environment. We're soaking it in more. And I feel less anxious. I've actually felt less anxious for the most part. I've had one or two instances where I felt really anxious. But for the most part, I've felt really grounded. And I think it's because we're not running around as much.
So,
and we've decided we're going to travel less.
Yeah. Well, and like Dindapani said in that interview, when he said, if you're like dashing from one thing to another, it increases anxiety. It creates anxiety because your mind is never fully focused. It's kind of like darting around like hummingbird.
Yeah, exactly.
So
for us, it's going to be less travel, especially work travel for me. I was already pretty disciplined on how much I would do, but I'm downing it even more because I really like being home. Yeah. I was pretty disciplined.
We had 2 travel rules.
We had a 2 travel rule. It would
but
get broken once in a while, but not terribly. But again, I want to do less.
I just like to call you out.
Yes, well, thanks for that. And less running around. So less running around, just of little monotonous errands and things. Like, stay still. Sometimes an errand can wait and all be done in one day of the week instead of 5 different days. Or delegate. Yeah, we've really enjoyed certain delegation of errands and groceries and things like that. So we're going to continue to do that. I'm going to consolidate my business efforts. It's funny when you go through something like this, especially for you that own your own business, you start to see things rise to the top of the really good people you have working with, hopefully, and the efforts you make in certain avenues that pay out. And I have gotten so much more clear and focused on what is good for our businesses and what's not, that there's things that I'm going to just stop doing. I'm going with the 80-20 of what really gets the best bang for the buck, what do I enjoy, what do I see the best future for, and that's both in my real estate investing and in our family education, 18 Summers with you guys. We've gotten really clear on how we can help families, so we're going to be consolidating those efforts on the best way to help families.
I think too, probably that you've been able to have that awareness because you are here. You know, each day you're like, all right, this is how long I have, and I'm good. You know, like you are able to stay super focused and intentional because you're like, okay, I've got to set these parameters. My toddlers are banging on the door. I got to make sure that whatever I do is really worth doing in this moment. And I think that that's given you a different perspective of like priorities and seeing, like you said, that 80-20 rule, like what's bringing the greatest results. So let's do those things and do them the deepest.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that, of consolidating my business efforts, you guys know how we feel about tech distancing and tech fasting. We love technology. I encourage it. You know, we wouldn't be talking with you right now, but I want to cut my tech even more. I've learned about myself when I start checking technology too much, text, email, I get really anxious, scattered. I don't do my best. So I want to continue to down my tech usage even more. Stay in touch with you guys for Family Fridays.
But probably bringing that intention into tech, right?
Yeah.
So it's not just like, you know, casual.
Yeah. I mean, our sons didn't like when we set a parameter of 2 hours a day on social media for them and then their phone apps went off. But they've stopped complaining about that. I think they budget their time, and I'm going to do the same for myself. So budgeting for myself with tech. I know the Freedom app some of you guys have heard of, where I'm only going to be able to go onto social media and email at certain times. Very disciplined, because in those other times I can do deeper work. Like, we wrote some really great material for 18 Summers. We're super excited about.
We built a new program after we talked to y'all last week. It was kind of interesting that we
came up that quick, but we had to shut off to do it.
Maybe it was a week before. Well, we filmed last week. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Like, wait, time flies.
Well, and we'll get you guys a copy
quarantine.
of that. So, but couldn't have happened if we shut off.
If it was just us, you know what I mean? But being able to connect and then being able to shut off and then really focus on.
So less. Yeah, overall less tech for us. At least that's what I've decided. And I want to, you know, not only with being home more, I want to be working with especially working and living with our teens more. You know, we've had some great conversations. I can see that we're going to help.
Our dogs are going nuts.
Our dogs are going crazy. Sorry, that's part of the game, right?
They're like singing.
But we can work out with our children more. We can learn with them more. There's certain lessons I can see more and more through this pandemic that aren't taught in school that it's our job to teach.
And two, leaning into just who they are, because I think, you know, we've always been involved in their education. We've always spent that quality time with them. But even just spending, like, I don't know, I feel like us all being home, being able to catch additional moments of just, they're in their room and they're not doing, I don't know, just go sit on their bed and be like, hey, what's up? You know, or we even watched some of their, some shows, you know, like shows we wouldn't normally watch. I think we talked about this the other day, and it was just, you know, eye-opening, or funny, humorous shows that we all decide to watch together. Then we have a good laugh and then we move on. But it's just
give and take.
Like stretching out of like our norm with them has been really fun.
Impractical Jokes.
Impractical Jokers movie. It's a terrible movie.
That was a terrible movie. Don't watch it.
The show's way better than the movie.
The show is better, but yeah, give and take. It wouldn't be my normal show, but I did laugh at it. And when we say, hey guys, we're going to get up early every day and do school in the morning, there's a little bit of give and take. But we've enjoyed life with our teens, and I want to be learning with them even more. That's a big goal that Jamie and I talked about. And I know this, again, 18 summers. Alden's 16, Leland's 14. This is moving. And I don't want to miss it. And this has slowed me down to remind me of that in a big way. And then something did you want to add something?
I was just going to say, even the toddlers too, they've really grown.
Yeah, no, they have.
We can watch them grow since we're home so much.
Yeah, they're loving this though. I mean, I can't imagine what they're going to look at like this. They think it's fantastic. Everyone's home. There's playing. There's still the beach and the pool. And anyway, but yeah. So we want to be home more. And for me, I've been working out a lot more. Being home,
getting swole.
It's trying to get swole. But no, but seriously, I mean, we've all gone to these bad situations where we just eat junk food and all that, and I've done the opposite, which I'm pretty proud of. And,
you've done great.
Coming out of the pandemic, I want to continue to stay in optimal shape because, frankly, I've stayed in pretty good shape a lot of the times, but I had, for the first time in my life after donating the kidney to my father, weight problems where it fluctuated up and down because my body had changed and I had to readjust, and then I wasn't making the effort to really do hardcore exercise. I'm still surfing, but not as much. But now I've been in the ocean every day, been working out every day, and I feel really good, and I want to carry that forward. And you've been doing quite a bit of activity as well on that. Mm-hmm. So
we're going to start posting bikini pictures soon of Jim and
that we'll lose our fans real quick. So the big question we wanted to tell you guys, and again, just take 5 minutes sometimes to do this, because if you don't actually dig in, then it doesn't stick with you. It doesn't do any good for you. Take a few minutes and jot down a few reflections and things you want to carry on through this pandemic. You might want to be saying, wow, I'm with you. Or maybe you're like, no, we haven't traveled at all. We want to travel more. We want to get out there more. And that's fine. It's whatever your family honestly is feeling or reflecting. I would encourage that. Yeah. But we wanted to give you just a few of ours. Lower technology, consolidating our business efforts, less running around, less travel, especially work travel, and be more home for all our kids, but especially our teens, to just, more life and more learning together with them. We're really looking forward to. Yeah. So, question is, what do you want to do after the pandemic? Yeah.
So just keeping in mind that, hey, Tina. Keeping in mind that, what we're in right now is a boiling pot of sorts. And maybe we talked about this last week too, but just that we're now in this heated state, and, metal is so malleable, and when you're in this hot pot, things come to the surface, and then you also become malleable. We talked about this with Dandapani too. And then during this time, you can really shape how you want things to look when you get on the other side and when things start cooling down. So even though now feels like a hot time, it might feel a little bit extra stressful or a little extra tense, or things are changing, you're still seeing some things emerge, and things that maybe you want to bring more attention to, like tech. So we've noticed, wow, tech's such an easy addiction. Maybe we need to back off of that. So how is this going to take shape when we come out on the other side? So it's just a really great time as things are starting to open back up and you're becoming closer and closer to this new normal, right? What's that going to look like for you when you get on the other side? And a great way to assess that would be tapping into that 75-year-old self and figuring, okay, so what is this going to be? I really think that 6 weeks of a pandemic to a 75-year-old is going to be like, oh, was that 6 weeks? That went by really fast. Or maybe it felt like forever. I'm not sure. But I think to me, I'm going to say, wow, that was a great perspective gained. And I mean, even right now, I feel like it's been kind of fast. Days are really long. But
days are long, years are short.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and think about things that you might want to do differently with the overall situation at hand. I know Jamie's been really teaching me about this. I can get really worked up and passionate about something, or even downright angry. When I read the reports of especially domestic violence and abuse going up at the home, I feel such a shame for manhood that happens. I mean, I get so angry and worked up.
It can be women too.
It can be women too.
In all fairness,
but in all fairness, it
is the women's shelter that's full right now.
Normally men, and I just think what a horrible display. But me just sitting there getting mad and doing that, what can I do about it? I can't go out and be a vigilante as much as I want to be sometimes. But what I can do is I can support Hubbard House. And Jamie, actually, we've been fostering 2 extra children for the last 2 weeks, which not only do I feel like we're making a small difference in a big way.
A huge difference.
Yeah. But we're also answering the call a bit. And sometimes seeing the issues that these new additions have brought into our house, like the things they're overcoming, makes my problems seem smaller and more manageable. There's a perspective there. So again, it never hurts. As you guys know, one of our core values is service and contribution. I would encourage, even if you're struggling, sometimes what can give just enough space to an issue that you're struggling with is just to lean into that and help in some way. So,
find the helper or be the helper.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. So it's something I would highly encourage. And after the pandemic, I definitely want to continue to support groups like that. And again, and to continue to strengthen family. The one thing we can promise you guys, we're going to be doing more of this. We're getting really hyper focused on the way we can help, and we've been able to help a lot of families in this, and that feels really good. And I don't say that to brag on us, but we just feel on purpose, and we feel in alignment, and that's really nice, intentional. So the big message.
That's my word of today.
Intentional. That a girl.
And 2, when you talk about service and contribution, and I know that you keep making like great points, and I'm like, ooh, elaborate. And it makes it go long, so sorry everybody. But I do think too, like, our children are watching. So however we shape this time, however we bring intention, however we serve, or however we ask for help, it's just it's always a good thing to think about who's watching, because they are always watching.
True. They're watching us.
And what are they learning from you? They're learning skills right now that you could have never made up for them to learn.
No.
Right? I mean, you could have made this shit up.
This is real life learning right now, and ask them the lessons. And when you figure out, okay, what do we want to do differently after the pandemic? Get together with your family and ask them. We've been asking. What do you guys see? How are we going to be different? How are we going to be better after this pandemic? Yeah. Bring in the whole family for the asking. So, always a pleasure to be here. What else? Anything you want to kind of send us off?
I've derailed the train quite enough today, so thanks.
I thought you did pretty good. I think maybe the dog barking, that was a new one, but you guys don't know anything about that. Kids screaming or dogs barking. So anyway, have a great weekend, guys. Think about how's life going to be differently after the pandemic. What changes are you making right now that you want to continue on, so that you can come out of this at a higher level, a better level, and a more connected level as a family.
Yeah, and something I do want to say too, and I don't think we mentioned this enough or ever. So we are on Instagram. I don't know if you follow us on Instagram, 18 Summers Tribe. So you can find us on Instagram. That's a good place. We love to post, funny stories and things throughout our day.
Jamie is now posting bloopers of our last video series we did. So it's pretty funny. I'm usually the butt of the jokes, but I'm okay with that.
You're just a butt.
What the heck? That sounds like a teen line. What are you doing?
Or toddler line. Also, speaking of the new program, so we probably next week will be launching our family crisis survival program. It's got some good stuff in it, and just keep an eye out for it. Hey, Missy. All right, y'all have a great weekend. We'll see you next week. Have a good weekend.
Think of it hard. What are you going to do differently after the pandemic? Have a good weekend, guys.
Bye.